Hello everyone, welcome back to the Mitchells in Alaska channel. I thought I would answer a few questions that I've been getting from some of our viewers. And one of the questions was what did we bring with us and why whenever we came to Alaska? Um, so I thought I would try to cover that. And I guess some of that kind of would depend on what you were driving. Um, we happen to have 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive pickups, so we could carry a bigger load than say some people could that had smaller pickups or cars or SUVs or what have you. So um, I was towing a 30-foot cargo trailer, and and I made some poor decisions on some of the things I brought that I didn't really use, um, and you can really get into some real weight issues um, bringing a lot of stuff with you. So some of it I'm really glad we brought because it's hard to get out here or expensive. And but my trailer was way overloaded, and so were the other guys' trailers as well. Um, my trailer had 14,000 pounds just on the trailer axles. I was probably carrying another 4,000 pounds of tongue weight because the rear axle on my truck weighed 8,700 pounds. Um, both are over the maximum GVWs on the trailer and the truck. So I think the maximum GVW on my truck on the rear was about, I think 8,300 or 8,400, and I was at 8,700 on the rear wheels. So my tires were overloaded. My trailer, I did put, had 14 ply tires on it, so the tires are okay. But my trailer was a 10,000 pound GVW rated trailer, and I had 14,000 pounds just on the axles. So the tongue was carrying more weight yet. So we were really fortunate that we did take a lot of time in our preparation and went through all of our wheel bearings and brakes and everything on our trailers, made sure everything was in really good shape. We had new tires on the trucks, new tires on the trailers, all on all three rigs. Um, so we planned and prepped as good as we possibly could have for the trip, but I really had no idea how overloaded we was until right at the final stage, whenever we were loaded and ready to go, and we thought we'd just go weigh our trucks just out of curiosity, and we were all flabbergasted. So I'm glad it was winter time when we came up, or we probably would have had a lot more tire trouble on the road. Um, but as it was, um, Tyler had one flat tire, and Perry actually had two, but both of his were cracked wheels. So my trailer, I put new wheels and tires on it. His trailer just had new tires on it. So may have been some previous issues with the wheels or something, but at any rate, they were grossly overloaded. So, um, but we did make it, and I did find out after I got here that my trailer had a broken leaf spring on one side, and a spring shackle broke off the frame on the other side. So, very lucky I made it. On one of Tyler's trailers, before we got to the Alaskan border, we were really close to it, but um, we noticed that the tongue was breaking off of his small trailer. He was pulling two trailers, which also is illegal in lots of places, as we found out. But um, so um, we were pulled off in a parking lot and then pulled back out on the road. Well, I seen his back trailer was bellying down, so I hollered at him on the radio and pulled back in, and we wasn't really sure what we were going to do at first because it's 2 degrees, snowing, but we were able to get out our jacks and jack the tongue of the trailer back up and get some tools out and drill it and put some bolts in it, and we were able to continue on and made it onto Alaska that way. So no other major issues besides that. So really very fortunate for a 5,000-mile trip loaded that heavy, and we run on slick roads from mid Iowa the rest of the way here. So the biggest port we probably had I'm going to say 600 miles of clear roads when we left Missouri, and that put us up into Iowa. And from Iowa on, we drove on slick roads or snow-covered roads or ice-covered roads all the way to our homestead place here in Alaska. So anyway, do all the preparation you can. Find out, um, you know, learn what the weather is in that area. You know, that'll kind of tell you what you need to bring. Um, Decide what you're going to do when you get here. You know, are you going to try to homestead? What's your plan? Are you buying a place that's already established? Or are you going to try to do everything yourself? Um, we bought a place that had a cabin on it, as you've seen in the videos. And other than that, you know, we had to clear the land and build 2 more cabins. So we wanted to come prepared to do that. So we brought all of the carpenter tools that we would need, saws, all that, you know, anything you would need from a building standpoint. Um, we knew we were going to be cutting wood, so we brought chainsaws. We brought a wood splitter. Wood splitter, that's a pretty big piece to haul. We brought our ATVs. I had a 4-wheeler. Tyler had a Razor. Perry had a Polaris Ranger. So we brought those. Those were also big pieces to haul. We had a couple of small trailers to tow behind the ATVs. We brought those. If I had to do again, I wouldn't have done that. That took up a lot of space that didn't need to be. We could have done without them. We could have come up with something once we got here. So, but again, we wanted to be prepared for everything. We're all 3 of us are all preparers and planners, and we wanted to be ready for anything when we got here. So anyway, we probably carried a little more than we should have. So we brought all the gardening tools that all 3 of us had: shovels, picks, rakes, crowbars, anything like that, because we knew we'd be digging and building and anything like that. So we brought all of those things, as well as your housing stuff, dishes and things like that. We did not bring most of our electric appliances. We thought we would be pretty shy on electric here. As it turned out, we've got set some solar systems up and some batteries, and we're doing pretty good now, as far as that goes. But probably one of the biggest things I could say would be do your research on solar power. We did not do near enough of that, and because of that, I don't know. I mean, I probably wasted a couple $1,000 learning some lessons there. So I would definitely learn about solar power and what it takes, what's involved with panels and a solar charger and a charger inverter for your generator to charge batteries. Research batteries. Batteries are really expensive. I've spent about $2,500 on the 6 batteries that I have. Perry just spent $3,500 on his batteries, and Tyler has probably about $2,500 in his batteries. So do your research on batteries, solar panels, charger inverters, and charger controllers. That's probably the biggest thing I could say. If you're going to go off grid, if you're going to move to a town, then no big deal. But if you're going to be off grid, that's a pretty important thing. And then of course, generators. We all brought generators. I actually brought 3. Tyler brought 1. Perry brought 2. I actually wound up, trading Tyler one of mine. So now we all have 2 generators apiece. We both have a 2,000 watt generator, and we both have a 3,500 watt, or all 3 of us have 3,500 watt generators. So one of mine's actually a 3,000. So I got a 2,000 and a 3,000 watt Honda. Tyler and Perry both have a 2,000 watt Honda and a 3,500 watt from Harbor Freight, whatever the name of it is now, but one of their 3,500 watt power inverters, so, or charger generator, or not a generator, but an inverter. So those are really good and really well worth the money. So, but you want something, you don't want one of them big loud ones that really burns a lot of fuel, because you can't afford to burn that much fuel up here. Right now in the wintertime like this, your generator is probably going to run at least 4 hours a day. So that's where your charger inverter comes into play. The first one I bought for $1,000 only charged at 30 amps. My batteries will take up to 60 amps. So I had to go back. I bought a different charger inverter that now charges 65 amps, and that's the maximum that my batteries are supposed to have. So do your research on those kind of things. That's probably the number one thing I would say to do. Let's see. You kind of need to know the area that you're going to be moving in, what kind of trees you have, what kind of annual snowfall, what the kind of temperatures, those kind of things you would want to do. And again, what you bring depends on what you can haul. So again, it's easy to get way overloaded. We also brought snow blowers with us. I'm glad we did. Not that snow blowers aren't very plentiful here, but when we got here, we rolled up in front of our place with over 2 feet of snow on the ground, and we got 3 trucks with big trailers sitting on the side of the road that we have to get off the road, and we had to unload our snow blowers, which fortunately we put in the back of the trailer, and clean out enough space after dark, mind you, and after driving for 11 hours. Then we had to clean out enough space to back all those trucks and trailers in off the road. So it was quite a chore. So, but again, that would depend on what time of year you were going to come. You know, if I was getting here in the summertime, that probably wouldn't have been a first choice. But we knew we were getting here in November. We knew that snow was going to be an issue. So, warm clothes, again, that depends on where you're moving to, what kind of weather you're expecting. Clothing isn't a whole lot higher here than it is at home. Carhartt coveralls, I see typically are, the coats $10 or $12 higher here. The coveralls are $10, $15 higher here. Boots and shoes, not a whole lot of difference when you get into the bigger towns, so like Wasilla or Anchorage or any of those places. So you don't have to get too carried away on bringing that. You're going to want rain gear. It is a lot of rain here. We did bring a freezer with us, and we had that freezer stocked full before we left home. And again, depends on what time of year you come. If you're coming in the summer, it might not be a good idea, but we come in November, so the freezer was full when we left there. And here we never actually had to plug that deep freeze back up until April. So you're able to go a long time without the freezer being plugged up. Of course, it's still out in the trailer. We didn't bring it in the house. So we brought a sawmill with us. I'm really glad we did, because those got very hard to get and very long lead times on them. So we used that to build Perry's cabin. That's how we cut all the D logs and all that. So that was an extra. I can't remember. I think about 1,500 pounds. We brought a cutting torch and a welder. That was quite a bit of weight to bring as well, but we wanted to be prepared for everything, so we could fix anything if we broke down on the road, anything like that. We also, Perry did bring a bigger, like a 8,000 watt generator that's capable of running that welder. So we did bring that too. I forgot to mention that. We did bring propane refrigerators with us, a couple of those RV refrigerators. After my cabin, also when I bought it, has actually a regular house propane refrigerator, which is quite common up here in the off-grid world. They're really expensive, but what we've learned since then is I think now I would rather have a smaller electric one, since we have our solar panels or solar power established and all that. So I probably wouldn't have brought those, because those are pretty heavy. Cook stoves, we brought a couple of apartment-sized cook stoves with us. Again, we had room to do it, so we did. I'm glad we brought them. They're a lot more expensive here than they were at home. Me and Perry both brought an extra set of tires and wheels for our trucks. I had to put rough treads on my truck before I left home, and I brought my highway tires on another set of wheels with me. And if I had to do it again, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just put the rough treads on and went with that. I wouldn't have brought an extra set of tires and wheels, but I got them now, so I'll go ahead and finish wearing them out. But let's see, hauled a boat motor up here with us because I thought that would be handy. We did buy this little boat up here. We haven't had time to use it yet this year, but we will next year. But I wouldn't have brought that. But at the time, we thought we were prepared for everything, and for the most part, I think we did. I did bring an on-demand water heater because in my cabin here I have an on-demand water heater. We set one up out in a little building for a shower during the summertime. During the wintertime, we have to heat the water in the house on a wood stove and take it out because you can't leave the other one out there; it'll freeze and bust. So, have a different kind of a shower apparatus for that. But so I'm glad I brought that. We brought water cans with us. Again, they're not very heavy, but they take up quite a bit of space. I'm glad we brought them, because they're $15 a piece or something out here, and you can see quite a few of them sitting here behind me. Um, that's pretty handy. We don't have a well yet. We're still hauling water. I do have a 55-gallon barrel in my cabin now that holds water, and we haul and fill that. So it's not like we have to go get water every day, but we still use the cans for shower water and stuff like that. So if you have room, those are good things to bring. We brought some chairs, some old chairs that we had laying around. Again, depends on what you're moving to. If you're coming to an established house or an established place, then you might not need to bring some of the stuff we did. But again, we like to be able to do everything ourselves, and so we wanted to be prepared to do that. So we also brought hand tools. I brought all of my hand tools with me. So did Tyler. So did Perry. We want to be able to, of course, still work on our own cars as we can. It's pretty expensive to have stuff done, and we're used to doing stuff like that ourselves. We're pretty creative guys. We can figure out how to fix almost anything, it seems like. So and do pretty much everything by ourselves. I mean, we've been here for a year, and we haven't hired anybody to do anything for us yet. We've managed to get 2 houses built. We've cleared a lot of property, all that, and we've done all of it ourselves. We've rented a skid steer a couple of times, rented a mini excavator once, rented a dump trailer a couple of times, post hole digger, things like that. But for the most part, we brought enough stuff to do about everything we needed to do. So I'm glad we did, but I wouldn't recommend everybody to try to bring that much stuff because you could have some expensive breakdowns on the side of the road, or worse. Again, all of our trucks were all carrying over 8,000 pounds on the rear wheels, so they were loaded pretty heavily, and like I say, driving in a lot of bad weather. But the bad weather really wasn't, to me, really wasn't that big of an issue. Driving in, it just was slow. There was a lot of times we'll be driving 45 miles an hour for hours at a time, and that got kind of boring sometimes. But outside of that, the dog was keeping me company. She rode up front with me all the time. So, but anyway, I guess the biggest thing I could say is solar power, charge your inverters, generators. Do your research on those things there, and that would probably be the most important thing I could say that you need if you're going to be off grid. And again, as far as the other stuff goes, anything you think you need, if you have the ability to bring it, I'd bring it, but I probably wouldn't necessarily go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. But one thing to keep in mind, though, if you have a truck heavy enough, buying a cargo trailer down in the lower 48, especially buying a used one, if you can buy a used one worth the money down there and then turn around and sell it up here, you could just about, you could easily pay for your fuel for the whole trip. So the cargo trailer I bought down south for, I believe, $4,300, and I had to do a little work on it. Put new tires on it and new wheel bearings and new brakes and that on it. But so I spent a little bit of money on it, but when I got up here and sold it, I sold it and bought a 20-foot Connex, and then had some money left over. But anyway, I get $4,300 for it down there, and I sold it for $10,500 up here. So, and I probably sold it a little bit too cheap up here. So, anyway, that was a $6,000 profit on that trailer, and that alone would have, even at today's fuel prices, that would buy the fuel coming up here in a gas hog truck, just like I drove up here. So anyway, something to keep in mind if you have the ability to do that. That's a good option. Not the option for everybody, but it was a good option for us. So anyway, I'll try to think of some other stuff and maybe do a different video later. But anyway, I thought I'd throw this out there and see if it was of any use to anybody. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you would. We appreciate everybody. We're up to almost 5,000 subscribers now, which just blows my mind. I love reading the comments. We get comments from all over, and I read and reply to all of them. So feel free to comment. We definitely like the advice. We've definitely learned a lot of stuff. A lot of it we learned the hard way. A lot of times somebody will call in or send us a comment, and it's like, oh wow, man, that would have made things a lot easier. So anyway, we've used some of that advice on other places, the next project that we did or something. So anyway, thanks for watching.